Welcome, welcome, welcome to School Leadership 101. What do you need to do to prepare yourself to sit in the seat of a school leader? I am Dr. Desiree Alexander. I am your host for today. Hello. These are all of the different ways that you can contact me. Whoop, whoop. If you're watching us on the YouTube channel, no, you don't get a certificate, but you do get the knowledge. Also, right underneath the video in the details, you will see the link for the resource for today. So what do we have coming up? The last session in Minecraft education is this Tuesday. If you're like, Desiree, I really want to come to that, but I missed the first two. Watch the videos. June 6th and June 13th. You can watch the videos, you can follow along, and then you can come to the last one, which is on June 20th, which is Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Then we have ISTE. So if you're going to ISTE, definitely come and check me out. Hello, I would love to see you. We also have 2 free book signings, so come get a free book until they, supplies last, and I will be there signing it, so definitely come and check me out. And then we have Shift the Mood of Your Classroom by Becoming Trauma Informed. So, if you didn't know, we have all been through a collective trauma, and how does just everyday trauma affect our students in the classroom? So that's going to be Saturday, July 1st, which is almost like not next Saturday, but the next. It's coming very quickly, y'all. Then we have Digital Footprint, what it is, and how to use it on July 8th. If you are in the state of Louisiana and you're interested in becoming certified in educational leadership, I am the lead of a program called TEL, which is an alternative certification program. The applications are due August 15th. So definitely look at some more information about that. And then we have NFTS in education. So you keep hearing about AI in education. So our resident AI person, Rochelle, is coming on back to tell us about NFTS in education in September. And then we have the smart way to write IEP goals and objectives. So Marlene is going to come, Dr. Marlene is going to come and let us know more about SPED. And she has a bunch of videos with us on different SPED topics. And then we have creating equity through the arts. So not just if you're an art teacher, but through the arts in your classroom, how can you build that equity in September? And then we have showcasing your wins, celebrating your success with your community. So we don't want other people to tell our story. We want to tell our story at our schools and how we're being successful. So that's going to be in September. Then we have strengthening your math engagement with Desmos. So how can you use Desmos to really be engaging and interactive in your math lessons? In October, then learning through the metaverse. So Rochelle is going to come back. And again, with all these AI terms that we hear, we're like, we don't understand it. Come and learn about it. Then we have voice, value, and validation, a paradigm shift. So not only talking about how we can ensure that our students feel valued, they're validated, we're amplifying their voices, but how can we just shift all of this culture and make sure that it's happening on a regular basis? And that is in December. We are currently planning, we already have 2 for January, y'all. It's crazy. We just keep this train going. So it's a lot. Let us know what you want. We always have our self-paced courses for different types of test prep and support time. And then, of course, let us know what you want to either hear, like what topics you want, or what do you want to teach. So even if you're a first-time presenter, you may fit right in with EA webinars. I don't know. We'll have to see. Fill out that form and we'll see. So if you said, Desiree, that was a lot of stuff. I know. But you can always go to one link to register and get more information for all of them. And that's like Educator Alexander, and alex.net/events with an S on the end. So what did we come here for? We came here for School Leadership 101, and that's what we're about to hop into.
Thank you so much for the introduction. And yes, you are very busy, but you are a great resource. So if you have not been connected with Dr. Alexander, today's your day. So yes, School Leadership 101. So excited to be here with you guys. Who am I? What do I do? I am Dr. Amanda Elizabeth Austin, and As of last Monday, I would have said I was the principal of North Iberville High School, but as of Tuesday, I became the director of the Iberville Math, Science, and Arts Academy East in St. Gabriel. With educational leadership, you never know where it's going to take you as a school leader. Where you're called is where you go. And so for me, I feel like if I had like a book, then I definitely could write a story about all the experiences. Prior to becoming a principal, I was an elementary school teacher for 7 years in different parishes around our state, Louisiana. And then I moved into secondary school leadership. So I have really literally seen the kindergarten through 12th grade experience, from teaching those foundational skills of reading all the way to graduation and getting them off to college, college admissions and scholarships. And so it's really been exciting to kind of see this journey from elementary to secondary. And so I hope, I tell people all the time, either expect the unexpected or don't ever kind of pigeonhole yourself about where you think you'll be. You never know if I never thought as an elementary teacher that I would be with seniors and juniors in high school. But I absolutely love it. And I see how those foundational skills are that important as our kids grow, as they matriculate through school. So what's our objective for today? Our objective is we're going to look at the Compass Leader rubric. Now, that is something that is specific to Louisiana, but for those of you who are not in Louisiana or in different parts of the country or the world, definitely I want you to look up what evaluation rubric do my leaders, how are they observed? How are they rated? And so that is homework for you, is to look up wherever you are, look up how are the school leaders rated and evaluated. Next, we're going to look at creating or beefing up a leadership portfolio. If you don't have one, I'm going to give you some tools so you can get started. And again, summertime is the best time to do it. You never know when things are going to open up. You may not be ready at this moment, but this could be a year that you are working on this portfolio. So I want to give you some tips to get started. And then we're going to just talk about some ways to prepare for an upcoming interview. I'm sure at some point in time, we all have interviewed for a job, but I want you to think of some questions or think of some ways to answer those questions, especially some that may try to trip you up. So in the chat box before we begin, I just want you to type in, what is your current role? So in the chat box, I just want you to type your current role as of now, where you are and what position you're in. As you guys are typing, we're going to go ahead and we're going to move forward. So these are some women and a male author, but these are some individuals who are inspiring. You're going to receive a resource guide once you complete that evaluation, but you'll receive that resource guide that's going to have some links to some TED Talk videos and just a book, which there are millions of books, but books that could be helpful to you. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get started in the bottom right-hand corner with Dr. Rita Pearson. Dr. Pearson has passed, but if you've ever watched the video, Every Kid Needs a Champion, that video is so inspiring. And it talks really to kind of charge you to say, are you going to be that leader? Are you going to be that teacher, that assistant principal, school psychologist, whatever position you're in? Are you going to be that person who's going to be that kid's champion? The person that a kid can come to every day. They look forward to seeing your face. And when you're not there, they're looking for you. Then we have Miss Linda Clyde Wayman, and she was a school leader at the time of her video, but she is so inspirational. She talks about the school that she became a principal at and how it was under-resourced, underfunded. And so one of her slogans is, so what, now what? Our kids may be low, we may not have. So what? Now, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to change our mindset? How are we going to move forward to do what's best in the best interest of kids? And so that is another link that you're going to receive. And it is so inspirational. Then we have Dr. Tiffany Anderson. She's a superintendent, so we're jumping way up there. But again, she's hands-on. And regardless of your role, it's important to be hands-on and to know what's going on in your school, on your campus. And then we have Baruti Kafele, who has inspiring principal. I think he has inspiring principal. He has assistant principal, principal, 50 critical questions for new and future school leaders. Great resource, quick read. And again, I don't get paid by any means by any of these individuals, but these are resources that I have personally used, watched or read that have really inspired me moving forward in my educational leadership journey. And I wanted to share them with you guys. So you want to be a school leader, you're thinking about it, and you want to know, where can I get started? Again, our conversation this morning is really going to be surrounded by the Louisiana Compass for School Leaders rubric. But while you're here, if you have open up another tab, and if you're anything like me, I have multiple tabs open, then open up a tab and Google, like, whatever your state is, school leader evaluation rubric, to see how are your school leaders in your district evaluated. And so you can kind of gear that toward the conversation if it looks a little bit different. But these domains here, school vision, school culture, and instruction, are really wide ranging, which are really used across the board for any school leader, but I want you to specifically have it for your state, country, or continent. So school vision. This one is all about data, student achievement. I know as a school leader, I am on pins and needles waiting on data to be released by our state at the end of June, beginning of July, fingers crossed. But I'm waiting on that data because I want to see where my kids landed and what they do. But if I'm a teacher, how do I do that? Well, for me, I'm all about teacher leadership. And so kind of as we're going through this, I want you guys to just take some notes or just jot some things down about what you can do, even in your role, that can help you and apply some of these things to your current position, but then also being a part of that school leadership team. So if I am a teacher, then of course I have my own data that from my own classroom, but then you want to take another step and say, what does that look like for my grade level? How is my school doing? In Louisiana, we do receive school scores in the fall, and it's important to know where we are individually, but as a school leader, you want to take that next step and you want to know exactly how are we doing collectively. The one thing that I do like about our evaluation rubric here in Louisiana is that it gives you some evidence. And what I do is I take this evidence and I turn it into something tangible that I can do and on my campus. And I have literally, and I'm gonna show you guys here, if you can kind of see it, it's a binder and it's thick. But these are the tangible things that I've done based on how I would be evaluated and turned it into actionable things that I do on my campus. So again, I have some highlighted and there's more, but these are just some things that we're gonna talk about. We're gonna start with the very last one. As a teacher, I know when I was a teacher, I used to ask for everything. Like, I need this in my classroom. Do we have money for this? I don't even know if I asked if we have money, but can we spend this? Can we do this? And so as a teacher and with that relationship with your school leader, just to say, the funds are public. So we should be able to have those transparent conversations, but how much money do we have? Where do we spend our money? Those are sometimes tough and uncomfortable conversations, but they have to happen. Especially when you become a school leader, you don't want to get all this money or not a lot of money and not know how to spend it. So having those conversations with leaders who are in those positions are going to be integral. And so, and I'll say this, I even do this as a school principal. I'll ask things all the time with my superintendent. I need money for this. And I know that while it is a priority for me, I always have to take a step back and look, is it a priority for all? But you want to start having those conversations about where does the money go? How do we use it? Also, that family involvement. Again, as a teacher, you can get that started in your classroom, but take that next step as a teacher and say, you know what, I think I want to be on that, donuts with dad or muffins with mom, or I think I want to be on the literacy committee, or I want to spearhead the literacy committee. As a school leader, I love whenever my teachers step into those leadership roles and they want to lead events on campus. And All of that is evidence that builds your resume for school leadership. And we're going to talk about how to document it, but take that next step, and start to try to insert yourself in some of those roles on campus. As a school leader now of 7 years, I know I can't do it on my own, and I don't want to do it on my own. It's a team thing. And that collaboration and that collective efficacy. So when you step up and say, hey, school leader, I want to lead or spearhead something, I really doubt that they're going to say no, because they're going to want that buy-in from the teachers on their campus. Depending on what school you're at, there may be opportunities for you to, every once in a while, or after administrative changes at schools, they may want to go back and rewrite the mission and vision of the school. My first principal that I worked with, that I still talk to this day, I'm pretty sure I bothered him and bugged him, but I would hope he appreciated it, because I wanted to know. I wanted to be a part of the process. I didn't want for them to hand me a product, but I wanted to know, how did this product get here? And so having those conversations about, hey, the values, beliefs, the school mission and vision, how do we get to it? How does that tie to what we do on our campus? And those are really important things and conversations to have with school leadership teams. So if there's ever opportunities for you to be a part of a school leadership team, shoot your shot and ask. It definitely can't hurt. All right. Next one, school culture. I really like to sum up school culture with, how does the school feel? When you walk onto a campus, what does it feel like? When you see the teachers and students, does it feel stiff? Does it feel rigid? Is it welcoming? Is it warm and friendly? How does it feel? Does it feel lax? Or does it feel like there's a sense of urgency that's not stressful, but how does the school feel? So this one really focuses on these components, that collaborative piece, opportunities for professional growth. I think I've already mentioned teacher leaders, and then safe and orderly school environment. That is also really important. So again, as we go through this, think of ways you can insert yourself into some of these things that you can go back in August and say, hey, principal, I want to do this. Let me lead this. And again, we're going to talk about how to document it, but that's building your school leadership portfolio. So teams of teachers, I'm sure we all sit in PLCs or clusters. And so in those clusters, you may have someone who leads it, a master teacher, a lead teacher, but find ways to work your way into presenting. One thing that I did this past school year is teacher leader conference that we have here in Louisiana. For those that wanted to attend, one of the caveats was, I need you to come back and I need you to present to the faculty at the beginning of the school year. Everyone who did it, or everyone who attended, they were so excited to come back and share what they know. And so again, that's also teacher leadership, putting them on a platform because they're the expert. And so that academic instructional strategies that they are going to present to the faculty could be beneficial to all, but it also places that teacher in a different light. And so again, building up that repertoire of skills is important. So see if you can present in your cluster or PLC meetings. That's one way to get started. Also, if there are ways for you, again, if you have a great strategy for data disaggregation, how do you review your data? What are your next steps? What do you do? Then that is something else that you could bring to the table in a cluster or PLC. Maybe you have a great format or a great chart. You know how to look at the data and say, all right, these interventions are needed next, documenting the results to show the growth. Again, think of how you, within your PLCs and clusters, grade levels, teams, how you can highlight your skills that could benefit others. Especially, I tell my people all the time, let's work smarter, not harder. So if it works for you, then it can't hurt to present to others. Then we have to look at, again, that teacher leadership pipeline. Again, I honed on that professional development, bringing it back to campus. If there's a way for a teacher to go outside of the district, if there's a way for a teacher to go outside the state, great. but that knowledge that they hold needs to be shared with others. I don't want them just to keep it to themselves. And so again, if you have something, even attending one of these webinars, and Dr. Desiree has a plethora of topics. So if there are ways that you can bring what you know to the table, definitely. And that even goes in with instructional strategies as well. Maybe you're a Kagan expert, bring it back to your campus. Also, then we want to look at, again, that leadership team structure. So think about your own campus. How is the leadership team set? Is it just members? Is it just the principal, assistant, counselor, or mentors? Is that an option on your campus? And sometimes I'll say this, sometimes you may not get paid. Some districts have mentor teacher stipends, great. But then there are opportunities that you might not get paid, but you get to elevate your voice on a school leadership team. And so sometimes you really just have to take those opportunities as they come. If it's just extra time that you spend to grow your own self and to grow your campus, then take it. So just kind of keep those things in mind as well as you kind of think about the processes and procedures of your school campus. In the chat box, I want you to type, think about some ways right now. We've only covered school vision, school culture, and some, the caveats in between, but just type, how is there one way that you could insert yourself into one of these school leadership teams, teacher leadership, professional development? Is there anything that you think right now you could do on your campus for next school year that might elevate your voice? So in the chat box, kind of just a quick reflection. Is there anything you think that you could do that might give you a leg up or share an opportunity that you think you might try to take toward, again, teacher leadership, professional development for the upcoming school year? And even if you don't know, that's fine. Teaching is all about, we steal from each other, we borrow from each other. So if you're not quite sure, kind of look at the other people's answers in the chat box. But again, something, a risk, maybe, it depends if you want to call it that you might take to kind of elevate your voice as teacher leaders on your campus. All right, and then this one was so important. Creating safe and orderly school environments. No one tells you, I guess you should know, maybe it's common sense and it was just me, that being a school leader is not about growing students academically. You also have to manage a building. You're like a manager. And so you manage people, you manage students, but you also manage the building. And so if there are work orders that need to be put in, who's doing them? And so as teachers, I love a chart. I don't do Excel. I'm a Word, and I'm gonna make a chart for everything. But if there's a way for you to help the principal say, oh, there's work orders that need to be put in, or there's some things that's going on in the class, then offer up a suggestion or a way to collect that information. Because again, having a clean and safe environment is important to all. If I don't feel safe, if my students don't feel safe, then they're not going to focus on the academics and the instruction. They're going to be distracted. And so it's really important to have some processes and procedures in place. Since I've been a school leader on the campus that I'm actually leaving, we have ordered 18 new AC units since I started. I have it in an older building. And so we kind of patch stuff, but 18 AC units since I've been there. We have managed water leaks. Well, whenever there's a pipe that is busted, the water pressure goes down, which means you don't have toilets, which means you don't have water to drink or to flush the toilets. And so I've had to learn these things on the job. You have, programs and ed leadership programs, master's programs, and they're going to talk about these things, but until you're in it, you're kind of like, what to do. And so if your campus has a school safety committee, then that's definitely one thing to insert yourself on and to be a part of, because this is one that really kind of catches you off guard. Whenever you don't know, how does this work? I know one particular situation for me with a water leak. They were like, oh, we'll bring portable restrooms. And I was like, ooh, portable restrooms. We got a lot of kids. How is this going to work? And so you really kind of have to think through a lot of things. But again, you don't do it alone. Leadership team members, teachers, would you want to go to the porta potty? You know, we're in Louisiana, it's hot. I'm sure it's hot in other places in the country, in the world as well. But in Louisiana, it's hot. And I just think about a 2 p.m. porta potty. I mean, I think you can imagine that yourself. And so again, think of ways to alleviate some of those pressures from the school leader. And again, to take it and to create a system that you could use for your own portfolio moving forward. And then we have instruction. When we think of being a school leader, really, honestly, my mind always went to instruction, growing the kids, growing teachers. And that is the majority of the job. That is the most important factor of the job. But as I kind of mentioned, you have those other parts that sometimes they take precedence sometimes over instruction if you have to deal with other things or manage other things, but instruction is what grows and moves the school. So here, this one is all about feedback, using assessments, making sure that we have things in place to grow. So this one really, this one should impact us a little bit more since we are in the classroom on ways that we can, again, kind of field test and try strategies out with our kids. But then to see, can any of these things translate into like maybe a school-wide initiative, a school-wide goal? I have a great writing strategy in my classroom, and I'm seeing results, and I have a rubric, and I'm using, different ways to assess the writing on a, regular basis, then that might be something worth bringing to the school leader's attention. So that way we could do it school-wide if it's something that we field tested in our classroom. So this is one that I want you to think about. How do you do it in your class? If it's effective, how do we translate that, to a larger scale? So again, if you are a mentor teacher, or even if you're just a regular classroom teacher and you have a relationship with a school leader, and you're able to say, hey, have you ever thought about, maybe doing some peer observations, not for, any type of formal evaluation, but being able for teachers to see other teachers. I might have a teacher who has a really good strategy for grouping, and I might have another teacher who does really well at student engagement. Bringing those things to the table, that way you have teacher to teacher observations and a system that you're growing one another. And it's a transparent culture. That's really important because it builds that collective efficacy among the campus. It's not a, oh, they're here, I gotcha evaluation. It's a, no, this is a growth opportunity for both parties. So if there are opportunities for you to see other teachers and teachers to come see you, because again, it's great to observe other teachers, but if you have a great skill asset, you want others to learn from you as well. So that's really, really important. One thing that we've done in my district, maybe a couple years back, is we used to conduct learning walks where it was a team of teachers. It could be 3, it could be 5, or however many individuals. They would collectively go and observe a teacher for maybe the whole class period, a short period of time, but then they would come out and they would kind of do a quick debrief. What did you see? How could, what is that one thing that would enhance student outcomes, or what is that one thing that would just, take this from a good lesson to a great lesson. And so that those learning walks, those, collaborative groups, that was really impactful as well, because I might see something or not see something that other people on the team also need to be able to see. And so again, think of ways that maybe, if again, maybe not at a school-wide level, but how can my grade level, how can my team, whether it's elementary, first grade, science department, what is one way that this group can start to put some things in place to grow one another in regards to instruction and walkthroughs. Then this one is really about, again, student engagement, especially depending upon your evaluation rubric. One evaluation rubric that we use in my parish is the NIET best practices rubric. And there's been a shift over the last year to student ownership. And that's a hard shift, only because it really impacts the teacher. It's teacher mindset. It's not about what the teacher's doing. Like, I'm here, I see you, but I'm really looking at what are the students doing as a result of your teaching. How are they taking ownership of the learning? How are they synthesizing information and making it their own? And again, that biggest part is how's that student to student interaction? Is Johnny, kind of paraphrasing and synthesizing information to tell Sarah? Does he understand to help her understand? And how is that playing out in the classroom amongst all students, regardless of their educational level? And so again, instruction is one of the most important things that we do as a school leader. But I want you to kind of think about how are things you do in your classroom ways that can impact not just your class, but your grade level, your department, and the school. And then one of the last parts of that instruction is data. I mean, of course, I can, have a beautiful classroom. When you walk in, my kids are in centers and groups and working on activities, and everyone looks so engaged. But when I get that exit ticket at the end of the class period, and less than 50% of my kids got the objective of the day, that red flag. And so this one is all about data. So again, it's great to bring your best practices to the table, but we also have to bring the data to the table as well. So as a teacher, think about what you're doing to collect the data, what the data says, and how are we making decisions moving forward. If I have kids who don't get it, what are my next steps? And if you have a good process, again, that is one thing you could do. And I'm going to show you how to do it, how to collect that evidence that we can use in a portfolio moving forward. So this one is those questions I kind of mentioned, some that can kind of trip you up, but these are things that to think about in an interview, whether it's a leadership, whether it is a non-education, a consulting, remote position. But think about this. What do you bring to the table? How can your skills benefit the school or system you wish to enter? So that really means kind of doing some homework. What do they have? What do they not have? I want to know what they don't have. If I see something missing, especially if you are working a state that does make, data public, and you can see, okay, they do really well at growing kids, but maybe they're not the best at assessment, or maybe they're really good at assessment, but they don't grow them. But I have some really good skills that could grow kids, and some progress monitoring things in place. Well, that's what you want to bring to the table. You want to say, well, you don't want to say, if they're lacking in an area, you want to somehow, work your way in to mention how your skills can benefit the area that they are lacking in. Also, what makes you the best candidate for the job? Sometimes you can have a great skill set, instructional strategies, and that's fantastic. But do you have those interpersonal skills that somebody will want to listen to you? Do you present things in a way that people are receptive to? Because we all know or can think of people maybe who are great, like they know their stuff, but they don't connect to the audience. They don't connect to the teachers. They may not connect to parents or students. And it makes it really hard to bridge that gap when they don't want to listen. So maybe you have great interpersonal skills. You are really good at building relationships. Well, if I can build relationships, then I can impact in other areas. For me, my first school leadership job, my first assistant principal role is when I moved from elementary, teaching 2nd, 3rd, and 5th grades to a secondary campus, 7 through 12. I knew for me that I had to build relationships because if you know anything, secondary is a little different. Love it. I'm here now, but it was a little different to transition my way there. So I knew that I had to build relationships with those teachers on the campus in order for me to even start to have conversations about what needs to be done or changed or tweaked. And so that helped me smoothly transition into that position. Also, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Or areas of refinement? That sounds better than weaknesses. Areas of refinement. You want to be careful with that question because you don't want to show all your cards. We all kind of should have an idea of ways where we can grow. And so whenever you kind of answer this question, you want to present it as a way or respond in a way that says, I can grow in this area, but these are the steps I've already taken or I am taking in order to enhance myself in this area. Again, it's what you say, but it's really how you say it, especially in an interview, that really makes all the difference. And then the last one is, what questions do you have for the interview panel? I mean, I haven't sat in that many interviews, but I said it enough to know I'm going to have a question at the end of the interview panel. And that question could be, how do you see this person fulfilling this role? Or what are you looking for in a candidate to fill this position or to fill this role? What are you looking for? So kind of turning it around on them. So let's say they answer the question and in your head, you're kind of racing. Well, I didn't respond that way. Or we're looking for a candidate that's X, Y, and Z, but maybe you didn't hit that Z. So that is your last opportunity to reassure the panel, well, I have X, Z skills that would fit, and maybe reiterating something you said at the very beginning of the interview. So always leave with your best last impression in an interview. So again, these are some things to reflect on. And I really want to go back to that first question of, what do you bring to the table? That one is going to be really important. And if you don't know that answer right now, it's okay. I know, there are times that you try to figure out, like, well, what am I good at? What's my thing? And sometimes you really kind of have to take a step back and let it come to you, or kind of, scour your brain or think about what you're good at, but what do you bring to the table? Once you figure out what your niche is, what your thing is, then you feel a little bit more confident because you bring something to the table that others may bring to the table. But again, that second bullet, how can your skills benefit the system or school you wish to enter? That is your opportunity to say, this is what I bring to the table and this is what you need. Don't do it, don't be verbose. But this is what you bring, and this is how you could help that system enhance what is already existing. So what we're going to do with our last, with the second part are some resources. So I kind of mentioned that. I talked about some, these are some things, think about what you're doing, but then we got to document it, because it's great to talk about, but I'm old school. I love paper, which again, which is why I have my binder. I have one from when I was a teacher. I had one from when I was an assistant principal, and I have one now as a principal. Again, we're going to talk about ways to be electronic, which I'm going to get there, because this is the day and age that we live in. I'm still toting around this big, thick binder. And sometimes I feel like I have to go get a 2.5-inch binder, but there are ways that you could turn a hard copy binder into an electronic one. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to kind of show you some of these things here. So one of the first things is this Compass Fall and Spring Reflection Guide. In the resources that you're going to get a blank copy of it. Again, based on your evaluation rubric, you can rewrite it and make it look like how you want it to look. But my very first role as an assistant principal, my principal said, it was a larger school. You need to document what you're doing, how you're doing it. So when we meet for your mid-year and your end of year evaluation, you have everything in one place. Perfect. That's all I needed to hear. And again, I love to make a little chart, little form. And so for me, I went directly to the rubric that I'm evaluated by. I read it, kind of broke it down. And then I started to say, okay, how am I doing these things on my campus? And so I started to, in a Google Doc or a Word document, bullet point things that I'm doing, and then I hyperlink them when applicable. So that way we can get directly to that artifact or that evidence. So we kind of talked about under school vision, those goals, data. And so for me, if I had an opportunity, this is when I was a principal, I had to work with my leadership team to create the school improvement plan. I had SMORE, which is the online newsletter that even Dr. Alexander used. That is one way that I regularly communicated with my parents. I still had hard copies as well, but we know when we give children hard copies, they don't always make it home. So I did online newsletters. Also under school culture, how does my school feel? When you walk in? And so for me, again, I would just type up the things that I would do that fit under particular things. One thing that we used to have were Thanksgiving luncheons or Christmas luncheons. And so these are things that I would document here. And if there were photos or videos or the flyer, then I would hyperlink them on this as well. And then under instruction, if I did observations, if there was a support plan or coaching cycle, I would hyperlink it to this document as well. And so I'm going to just kind of flash here. I literally have one for every year that I have been a school leader as assistant or as a principal. That is whenever I have my end of year review or mid-year review with my supervisor. Well, what have you done? I'm able to pull this document up. And again, I don't do a narrative. I do bullet points and I hyperlink because my conversation, my narrative is verbal. And this is, again, my evidence of what I've done. And then this past school year, again, I was kind of like, let's try a different chart or form. And so again, my chart looks a little bit different, but the information is still all the same. And this is how I document what I've done. I had this same document as a teacher. And again, for you guys, I want you to know that if your goal is to be a school leader, even as a teacher, I want you to know the lingo. I want you to know the language of what school leaders are being evaluated by. And so when you're coming to the table and you're saying, okay, school vision, school culture, instruction, you're speaking the same language as the people on the interview panel. And so you can start to tailor your conversations and the things that you're doing on your campus in a format that you could bring to the table. So again, this is something, and again, it looks like a lot of words, and I know it's a lot. Well, it looks like a lot, but again, this is a way that I document or have documented the things that I've done on my campus for those conversations. Let's see. Another thing that you're going to have access to is the same information that I presented today, which is that Compass for Leaders rubric. Again, based on where you are an educator at, this is super important to have. While you have your own teacher one, if you know your goal is to move in this direction, it's kind of important to have either a hard copy or that tab open. So that way you can kind of always cross-reference to see, what am I doing in my class and how does it fit to where I'm trying to move next? And let's see, I'm pretty sure I have something else. Again, this is the document that I was referring to with the links of the videos, the TED Talks, one of the books that I mentioned, Aspiring Principal 50. The rubric is linked. Everyone will have access to the reflection guide. It is view only, so I ask that you make a copy of it and make it your own. The portfolio setup, again, I have my hard copy here, and we're gonna move into the electronic. I'm gonna give you two options of ways to think about to turn the hard copy into electronic. And that is my hard copy. I have it broken down into these sections. Pertinent information. I got my certification printed out, resume, cover letter, maybe evaluations, any type of feedback I might receive from a supervisor. I have it all printed out and I put it in that section. The second section is professional development. Any PD that I've attended and I get a certificate, I place my certificates in the second section. Professional memberships. If I'm a member of the Louisiana Science Teacher Association, the Math Association, the National Secondary Principals. So I'm printing it out and I'm putting my membership card in the binder. And then that last part is how I'm evaluated. So you saw on those reflection guides, I had things bullet pointed and hyperlinked. Well, my hard copy actually has the stuff hyperlinked. I printed it out and I placed it in the binder under those sections. So that other thing is the reflection guide is just like that quick reference, but my binder is more detailed where I've taken the next step and printed out the hyperlinks. So again, I'm more old school, but there are ways that I can convert this hard copy binder into an electronic format, and that is what I want to show you. So with that being said, let me move my little box here. So one thing is, this is just super easy. It's a Google Doc. On this Google Doc, I could hyperlink my cover letter. I could hyperlink my resume if I got certification, if I want to put my references, and I'm going to put everything that's going to fit with a, like, don't go to like 7-point font. That's too small. But I'm going to put all the documents that I feel necessary. You know, if I meet someone and they're like, hey, can I get your information? I need to know more. Well, I'm going to give them a link, and that link is going to be held on this page. I know some transcripts are now electronic. Some schools or colleges, universities have been have the option of the electronic ones. If I have SLTs that I would, you know, I'm highly effective. But if I have highly effective SLT results, I might want to have that hyperlinked and shared on here, because that is something that you need to brag about, you know, of course, humbly, but brag about it. And that's something that needs to be shared. Observation scores that are great, place them all here, and any other information. You know, however you title your resume, name, address, email, phone number, all of that could be your header, but that is one thing. Again, I probably start here because for me, I'm like, oh, that's easy. I could just put everything here. Again, I'm not going to go to a 7-point font. I'm really not probably going to go to like below 10, but I'm going to put as much information here or hyperlink it here or hyperlink it here. So that way, if I'm sharing a link with anybody, when they say email me, I'm going to put this in the email. Please see my information here, see it below, because I want them to be able to refer to it. Another option is Linktree. And this is something that I've learned recently. It is free. If you want to get fancy, they do have pricing options and ranges that you could kind of select from. But if you're just doing the basic, then Linktree is another way that you could create an online electronic portfolio. So this is where this is my 23-24 goal is to get here, because it will require me to scan, upload, and turn a lot of these paper copies into PDFs if they are not already, to share on my Linktree. So I have one that I use like just for, I don't want to say for fun, but that I just use that kind of made on a whim, and I've been using it, and it's connected to my social media pages. But I can see the benefit of using this binder. So here, it was not hard to make. You literally name it, and then you hyperlink it. It does give you the option to move things around or to create headers. So my professional links are here. Any referral or discount code, you know, whatever. My personal links are here at the bottom. And again, these are things that I'm fine with sharing. Most of these things are on the World Wide Web anyway. But again, very easy to sign up and use. But I can see how I could use this resource to turn my paper hard copy binder into an electronic portfolio that, again, I could share as I am moving forward in my educational leadership journey. And they say, can I have any, you know, do you have any references? Do you have any artifacts or evidence of the things that you're speaking of? Then I could share this link with them. I don't have to lug around my big binder, but I could leave everyone at the interview panel with a piece of me and the best pieces of me professionally. So I know we're kind of running down for time, but again, I wanted to share with you, these are some things that I have done myself as I have moved along in education. Again, I'm more paper-based, but I see the benefits of some of these electronic or, online virtual websites that could help me move and be, again, I want to have that technology piece and I want to move with the times, but some ways that could help me grow professionally as I, move within education. So we have about 5 minutes. So if there are any questions, Dr. Alexander, then please share them with me. If there are no questions, then please, again, as she said, follow me on Twitter, follow me on those other web pages. If you think of anything else along the way, but I am super excited to, get to meet with you and to talk to you. So thank you for your time. Any questions?
So what we're going to do is I'm going to start with the chat questions. And then if you would like to ask a question on the mic, just simply unmute yourself and just sit there. So I'm going to call your name so we're not talking over each other. So the question that we have from the chat is, when is the best time to start applying for leadership positions for the next school year?
Honestly, it's depending on your district or where you're at. Sometimes they have administrative pools, which is really just like if positions become available in education, as you may or may not know, positions become available at any time. And so it's really one of those, always be ready. If you are, my shameless plug as well, is if you are looking to get in a educational leadership program, then you have, as Dr. Alexander mentioned, TEL, they have other ones, but make sure that you're in a position that you have your educational leadership certification. You've taken your exam for your state, but that you're ready and it's on your certificate, because again, on Tuesday, I found out I was changing schools. I applied for my assistant principal job at the end of the school year, and I applied 3 different places. And I didn't know where I was going to land, from an elementary to secondary. Like, there's opportunities that could happen at any time, especially if a district has movement. I got hired at my school. My principal became a supervisor mid-year. It really, I can't say August, I can't say January, because things could happen in the school year. And so just staying ready is always beneficial. So start working on it, getting your certification, getting it on your certificate, building your resume and your portfolio. So that way, if you see an opening, you have everything and you're ready to apply.
Okay, I am not seeing any other questions. I'm not seeing anyone unmute themselves. So I'm going to say a huge thank you for this webinar. There's so many people that contact me and they'll say, hey, I'm getting ready for an interview. What do I do? And I'm always like, let's see, I don't know. But you search a whole bunch, right? You start Googling, what are some questions they can ask me? How do I prepare? So this was just such an amazing resource that people can go back to and go, okay, let me start preparing and let me start getting in the right headspace for preparation for becoming a leader. So Dr. Amanda Austin, thank you so very much for this.
Thank you again. Thank you for your time this morning. And again, just stay ready. You never know when an opportunity is going to present itself, and you don't want anything to ever stop you from moving to that next level. And so that's kind of what I preach, is just have your stuff together. Find you someone, a mentor that you can connect with, so you can ask those, like, what questions do they ask you? So you can just, again, be mentally prepared for whatever the next steps in your educational journey may be.